Hello and welcome to another Mr. Carter Science Special. Don't forget to support the channel by liking and subscribing. In this video we're going to look at a range of specialized plant cells. By the end of the video you'll be able to explain how these specialized plant cells are adapted to their functions. So the first cell that we're going to look at comes from the organs known as the roots. Don't forget, plants have a range of different organs. They have the roots, they have the leaves, they have the stems and flowers, all of which are organs made up of a group of similar cells with a similar function. So one of those cells that we find in the root is known as the root hair cell, and it has this particular shape. This particular shape gives it a large surface area, so we have a fast rate of absorption of water and minerals from the soil. You'll notice that there are no chloroplasts in this cell because there's no sunlight underneath the soil, so the plant won't waste any energy making chloroplasts, which would be useless in the root. Within the cell there is a large amount of mitochondria, which will provide energy from respiration, and the energy we use for active transport to help absorb those minerals from a low concentration in the soil into a high concentration within the root hair cell. The root hair cell also has a large permanent vacuole to help absorb and store water. The next cells that we're going to look at are found in the leaves, and in many ways the diagram that you can see here is the classic diagram of a plant cell. These cells are found in this particular layer of the leaf here, known as the Palisade mesophyll layer. So these cells are known as Palisade cells. And Palisade cells have many chloroplasts that contain the green pigment chlorophyll to help absorb light energy for use in photosynthesis. Palisade cells are positioned in the outer layers of the leaf to again absorb as much sunlight as possible. And Palisade cells contain a large vacuole which fills up with water here due to osmosis, and it helps keep the cell and therefore the leaf rigid, so the leaves can spread out, have a very large surface area, and again absorb lots and lots of sunlight for use in photosynthesis. The next cell on our list is found in the stem, and it's known as the xylem cell. The xylem cell. There is a partner cell next to it known as the phloem. In fact, if you sliced a stem in half, you would see a cross section that looks like this, where you have the phloem cells on the outside of the stem, and on the inside of the stem you have the xylem cells. Indeed, if you place some celery in some coloured water, maybe coloured with blue food colouring or ink, and you leave it for a few days, as the water moves up the xylem, it will carry the colouring with it, and if you slice the celery, you can clearly see the xylem cells. The xylem vessel will be coloured in blue because of the water and the ink that is contained within. In fact, that's the main function of xylem cells. Their function is to carry water or transport water from the roots to the leaves, and alongside that water or dissolved within the water is minerals. So how are they adapted for this job to transport the water and the minerals? Well, xylem cells are dead. The top and the bottom of the cell have disappeared. You can see that here in this diagram. The cell wall at the top and the bottom are no longer there. We only have the cell walls down one side, around the outside of the cell. So the water can form a continuous tube travelling all the way up from the roots to the leaves. They have very thick cell walls, and in fact an extra chemical known as lignin, which will help them to withstand the water pressure. The lignin sort of spirals around the outside of the cell there, holding those cells open as the water is moved up, so it stops the cells from collapsing in on each other. The next tissue and specialized plant cell is known as the phloem. So the phloem is a tube made up of sieve cells, which you can see here, and they transport sugars up and down the plant. In fact, the sugars are in the form of sucrose. That's two glucose molecules joined together. The sucrose is needed to make nectar in the flowers, and it's also needed by most of the cells around the plants to make proteins. The sucrose is broken back down into glucose. It's combined with nitrates that have been absorbed from the soil, turned into amino acids, and then proteins. The sucrose can also be used in respiration by the mitochondria. Again, it's broken down into glucose first, and this respiration will release energy that the plant cells can use. Now, next to the sieve cells are a cell known as the companion cell. I'll draw that here in purple. There's the companion cell. Sieve cells have a very small amount of cytoplasm and no nucleus. This allows more room for the central channel for the sugars to be transported both up and down the plant. However, it does mean that there's not much mitochondria, there's not much energy, so actually moving those sugars in and out of the phloem can be problematic. And that's where the companion cells come in. The companion cells have a large number of mitochondria, therefore a large amount of respiration and energy released, and much of that energy is used in active transport, so that the companion cells can actively transport the sucrose in or out of the phloem, ready for transportation. I hope you've enjoyed watching this short video on a range of specialised plant cells. Why don't you comment below, let me know what you've learnt. Don't forget to support the channel by liking and subscribing. Thank you very much for your time.